You're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Hello everybody and welcome back to RBLR Lightning. As always, my name is Jake Ricker and alongside me today, back from the penalty box, it's Matt Gannon. Matt, it wasn't in the penalty box, but just let's give him a little bit of a hard time. Matt, welcome back to the show though. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, sorry for my absence there. I'm bored to say the least. I'm happy to be back here with you guys, but yeah, the lack there of hockey's killing me, but I've served my 2 minutes. I'm up and I'm ready.
Yeah, I know. Even though football and college football, baseball postseason all right around the corner, I know we are all sitting here dreading the no hockey season. I know a lot of people, including myself, have been sitting there watching a bunch of hockey highlights recently and just ready to go for the hockey season. So, but it is getting closer and closer. We're getting ready to hit September here in just a couple of days. And September is officially preseason time, the end of September, granted, but we are we're getting close. We're right there. It's just out of reach. But Matt, before we get into today's show, I actually want to quickly talk to you about last week. Me and Eureka, we had a fantastic show, by the way. If you guys didn't hear that episode, make sure you go back and check that one out where we talked about kind of the Lightning's pipeline and how that could work out for them the next couple of years. But Matt, I wanted to ask you if you had anything to add and your thoughts on the Lightning pipeline right now, because we talked about in the last episode, The Athletic was saying that the Lightning have the 31st ranked pipeline in the NHL.
Better than 32nd, I guess. We've never been last as far as I know.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, and again, you know what? We've been ranked very, very low pretty much since our cup window has been open. Let's say since like 2011 when that conference finals run really started. We haven't really ever had any big flashy prospects since like Stamkos, Point and Kucherov. Well, I guess you can throw Hedman in there, but Point and Kucherov, they kind of came out of nowhere. But again, we've always been ranked really low, and that's what's been Lightning's calling card, is being able to find these gems just hidden in the draft that nobody would think to really take a chance on. And that's just really been their MO for the last 10 years or so. So, again, great show you guys did the other day. Thank you, Eureka, for filling in for me. But I was a little disappointed you guys did not talk about my guy, Lucas Edmonds. Again, you guys did throw out a bunch of names throughout the Iceman and Dylan Duke, I think you guys brought up a couple of times. But Lucas Edmonds, to me, he seems like he is kind of the prime candidate to make his way into the lineup this year. Not a full-time roster spot by any means, but there will be injuries that are inevitable. Right now, we know that Anthony Cirelli he's going to be out till December, I believe, on the injured reserve. Right now, I think Alex Barré-Boulet, he'll take that spot. But let's say somebody else goes down. I mean, is there anybody else you can think of that would slot in, be the next best candidate to make his way onto the lineup, even if it is just filling in for an injured player for a game or two? To me, that's Edmonds. He's already 21 years old. He's going to be reporting to Syracuse, I believe. So, it's to me, he seems like he's primed and ready to push for a spot at the very least.
Yeah, no, you make a good point. Absolutely. And I think a lot of that depends on camp and how these guys perform once we get into training camp and preseason. I think the coaches are going to be watching very closely for who takes over Cirelli's spot / Bogosian is also going to be out for a little while too. So I think the coaches will be watching in training camp / preseason for who that's going to be. And who knows, it could be Edmonds. The Athletic actually just put out an article talking about how Edmonds could be another mid or late round gem for the Lightning. So at least people over at the Athletic think that he's got some great potential. So you're absolutely right. He's definitely a player that is Me and Eureka, what we mentioned, well, I won't say it because you should go check out the episode, but basically he is one of the players, even though there's not many, that could potentially really help the Lightning in the future. So you bring up some great points about Edmonds. I would imagine he's going to play in the preseason. So he'll be a guy to watch out for in the preseason to see how he does. And being 21, that should help him a little bit. Having a little more experience-wise, no NHL or AHL experience, obviously, but that could play into helping him a little bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to bring up this too, since we're still kind of waiting to get into the normal news cycle for the hockey season. If you guys follow us on the Bolt Report over there, they post their countdown tweets every day, so I thought it'd be fun to read one of those. So for today, as of this recording, it is 42 days until opening night. So we're getting real close, as I mentioned earlier. And here is the fact for today. So Dana Tyrell and Jonathan Marchessault wore 42 for the Lightning, and they were even traded for each other in 2014. Tyrell put up 24 points in 132 games, while Marchessault had 12 points in 29 games before switching to number 81 in the 2016 season, or the 2015 to 2016 season. He did it in 2016. So there's a little fun fact for you as we are continuing to await opening night. Matt, Marchessault, he is one that was probably the worst of the quote unquote cap casualties that the Lightning had to have. Because remember, they just didn't have the room for him at the time, and the Lightning had to let him go. It wasn't like they wanted to move on from him, but he is definitely one of the players that the Lightning had to move on for. That probably became one of the better ones out of all those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to give him the title of a fan favorite, but he kind of had the making of one. He was just here for
He was up there.
Such a short period. You can't really classify him as that, but he was one of those players like Tyler Johnson, Yanni Gourde, where he was middle six kind of guy, but just everybody loved him, seemed to do everything right. But yeah, unfortunately, it just, didn't work out for him staying on this team, and he ended up going to Florida, and I believe Florida made a deal with Vegas during their expansion year to give Vegas Jonathan Marchessault so that they would take Riley Smith, and they're two of the only players they still have remaining from that initial expansion draft. So yeah, he did bounce around a little bit. Everybody knew how talented he was. Nobody ever really expected he'd be a first line, top six kind of guy. But yeah, he's really made his mark on the league in the last couple of years.
Makes you wonder where he would have been with the Lightning had he had been able to stay, had the Lightning had that extra roster spot available. But that is in the past. And you mentioned the Florida Panthers, fools making that decision. But because you mentioned the Florida Panthers, I want to bring this up quickly. And this is a headline I saw on the Hockey Writers website that was posted today. And Matt, I'm going to read you the headline. I want to get your reaction for this because I think it's quite hilarious. But here's the headline from the Hockey Writers. They put out great content, so nothing against them. Definitely recommend go checking out their content if you're looking for some hockey stuff. But the headline is, "The Panthers remain solid competition for the Tampa Bay Lightning."
I don't necessarily disagree, but it's difficult for me to fully agree for sure. I mean, I think the Panthers had one of the worst off seasons any team could have had this offseason so far. I'm a little biased. My Panthers hatred, it's up there. But again, everybody kind of objectively agrees that they got worse. I've seen a lot of people predicting they're not even making the playoffs this year. I mean, they traded away a 115-point guy for another 100-point player, but who knows if Tkachuk could, reach those same milestones. Not having Gaudreau and Lindholm on his wings, like, I don't know. And they got rid of Uyghur. They've got a pretty meager looking D core back there. I still think they'll remain competitive, but until they prove me otherwise, they're going to be the more irrelevant team in Florida.
Well, and that's the key at the end there, right? It's that listen, the Panthers are definitely better than they used to be. Again, I think we talked about this before on the shows. I remember when the Lightning would beat the crap out of the Panthers every single year. They're definitely more competitive than they were, but
Mm-hmm.
we proved it. We've beat them twice in the postseason now. We swept them last year, and until they can actually beat us, I don't think they're very high on the concern list for Lightning fans. And maybe that's us being naive, but they are not a big concern, at least for me anyway. And we'd love to hear your guys' thoughts at home as well on what you think about the Panthers. And I need to find the text, Matt, because I believe I texted one of my friends a while ago before a lot of this went down that I said the Panthers would miss the playoffs next season. So I'm one of those people. It was one of my hot takes. But hey, you never know. It could be right, but we'll see how things play out. We do have some Lightning news to talk about quickly. There was a little bit of that in the last couple of days here. So the Lightning signed Felipe Myers to a 1-year contract extension. So he already was under contract for this upcoming season, but he will now be under contract for the next season after that as well. And the contract extension was worth $1.4 million. Matt, I'll get your thoughts on this contract extension first, and then I will give mine.
It's hard for me to have any thoughts so far just because I haven't seen him play in Bolts Blue quite yet. But I guess, it's great he'll be making less money. I believe he's making 2.5 mil right now. And
Correct.
this is
2.55 technically.
Ooh. So, I don't know, it's always good to get a cheap defenseman. I still think that he can become something. I know he had a pretty bad year in Nashville, and they're kind of a defenseman factory. His prime years so far, they were in Philadelphia, and even those weren't anything super special. I really can't wait to see how he does play, because from the small little highlights here and there I've seen from him, he's got some really incredible footwork and skating, which I think could be a huge advantage to him. I just hope he doesn't go all fancy feet where his hands can't keep up with it and become like a turnover machine. Hopefully he can find a way to kind of hone it in and take some advice from Victor Hedman and even Mikhail Sergachev, who will now have to be taking a mentor role almost. He's not a prospect or anything, but he's still a young NHL player. So there is still room to develop. I just hope that he doesn't have quite a dismal year this year as he did last year. So again, it's always great that he's going to be making less money. It's a 1-year deal, so it's not risky by any means. But if he doesn't pan out, it's Hayden Fleury behind him, and then who else? So I'm praying that he is a very serviceable defenseman and he can keep up with the rest of the boys.
Yeah, well, this contract puts him basically as Ruda 2.0. In my eyes, he's making about the same as Ruda did. And like you said, it's nice that we're gonna have at least him for another year at a cheap rate, because defensemen can get quite expensive, especially when they start to get better. So it's good to have him on the roster as depth. And the Lightning seem to clearly see something in him to not only go out and get him and then extend him right away. And if there's anybody that I trust when it comes to scouting and potential, it's the Lightning. So how great would it be if we get a Norris Trophy candidate on a $1.4 million deal? That would be something, wouldn't it?
I saw a lot of jokes. I saw a lot of jokes when we first traded, McDonough for him.
Yeah.
It was like, great, Myers is going to be a Norris Trophy winner now. But you did mention something real quick. You said, the Lightning, they've always been pretty good with their scouting, but especially their pro scouting. It's one thing to, figure out which, young kid, he's got the highest ceiling, high potential, but it's another thing to, see somebody who's been in the league for, up to a decade or more and be like, what, he would fit perfectly in here. The Lightning, they're, I'm just recent examples thinking back to Nick Paul. Hagel, I'm still kind of waiting on to see if he was kind of a hit, but Nick Paul was a hit. Coleman, Goudreau, just these players that we've all traded for. It's our pro scouts given Julian Brisebois, the nudge, like, hey, this guy, I think he would look perfect on X line here, here, here. Here's his skills, here's that. So again, Lightning's pro scouting is just otherworldly.
I'm very interested to see how, and you're absolutely 100% right on that. I'm very interested to see how Hagel performs this year, though. We'll talk about this more as we get closer to the start of the season. But Hagel is definitely one of the most interesting players for this upcoming season because you're right. They were really high on him, and he's got a lot of potential. Didn't quite hit that right away, and he only had a limited time to get into the swing of things with the Lightning. But he is somebody that I'm very curious to see how he performs, and hopefully he will get into the swing of things, get into that flow with the Lightning, and make that trade look even better. By the way, a little bit of, well, not breaking news, but this just happened. It's not Lightning news, but the Sabres signed forward Tage Thompson to a 7-year, $50 million contract extension. So that is a pretty massive deal for the Buffalo Sabres there, especially at 7 years.
I mean, dude, I really like Tage Thompson. Kind of going off the rails here for a second, but Tage Thompson, man, he had almost 40 goals on a pretty pathetic Buffalo team. He's gonna be something one day, man. And he's like 6'5" or something. He is a big boy. He is a power forward, so much deserved. Good for him.
We need to give a shout out to the one and only, the best defenseman in the NHL in Victor Hedman, because the Lightning have been posting some things, and Gabby Shirley as well. She's been doing a couple of vacations recently, but she is in Sweden, I believe, in Victor Hedman's hometown, and Hedman has been giving some of the Lightning crew the tour right now. It's pretty cool to see those pictures. If you haven't, be sure to go on the Lightning's Twitter page and check them out. But Hedman driving around on a 4-wheeler from his house to the city and driving people around on a boat, giving everybody the tour of his hometown. That's pretty cool.
Can you pronounce his hometown for me?
There's no way. There's no way. I'm not even gonna try.
I won't either. I just
I
to see
don't
if you
know
would.
how to do. I don't want to do Hedman's hometown any disrespect, so I don't think I could. I could do that, man. That's. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna try.
Was Gabby Shirley, was she hanging out with the Paul family as well? I saw, the Lightning, they posted something. They spent the day with him up in Mississauga, Ontario. I didn't know if it was kind of like a player tour kind of thing during the off season.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it was. I knew Gabby Shirley's been traveling just because of her posts recently, and then I saw today she's been posting a lot of things with Victor Hedman, and the Lightning posted about it themselves. So I don't exactly know what the deal is, if it's just, Gabby Shirley was like, hey, I'm in Sweden, wonder what Victor Hedman's doing, or if it was a planned thing or not. But cool to see that the players are still, hanging out with all the Lightning people and having a good time, clearly. So that's always good to see, but we're
quickly, while we're talking international, I don't know if you guys heard. I think they just confirmed this last week, but we are getting another World Cup of Hockey in 2024.
Do we know who it's going to be or where?
We don't know where quite yet. What I've heard is that they're going to try to split it up in 2 groups, like locations. So one in Europe, one in North America. And for the final games, the gold games, they're going to take place probably in the North American rink. It's all kind of like, still very up in the air. But at the very least, a 2024 World Cup has been confirmed. So I'm excited and I'm stoked. Only bad thing is there will not be a Team North America nor Team Europe. That's also been confirmed.
Well, man, that's a little bit of a bummer not to see Team North America. But good to see that the NHL is still being involved, or hockey in general is being involved in those kind of events, because it's good for the game and in building it a lot. I know their global series was such a huge success for the Lightning going over there in Sweden when they played those 2 games against Buffalo. It was actually a huge help for the Lightning because clearly it gave them a huge boost and ultimately went on to win the Stanley Cup in those games. It's funny too. We've seen every sport start to do that now, where they are playing some kind of game overseas or out of their typical set of teams. Like for hockey, it's U.S. and Canada is normal, but they're going over to Sweden. I believe they're doing it again soon. I think, if I remember correctly.
I think there's going to be a couple of preseason games in Europe. I believe there's going to be 2 games played in Prague. I'm pretty sure. I know that's kind of a common place that they'll go to do some preseason games, but as far as I know, there's not going to be any regular season international, or not international, but games abroad. Kind of like the Buffalo Lightning Sweden series was.
Which I think I honestly like a little bit better. But we're still waiting on news for the jerseys or the jersey ads that we're supposed to get. Still haven't heard anything about that. I would expect that news to come out relatively soon because, again, we're are basically a month out from the preseason starting, and then a little over a month from the regular season. Although the Lightning really do love to take their time on this kind of stuff. I remember when the Lightning were doing their alternate jerseys, they didn't announce those till like halfway through the season. So I'm not sure if they're going to take that same approach with the jersey ads. I actually haven't heard anything at all ads related on the NHL front as an entirety. So pretty interesting to me that's gone very slow moving recently.
If they all just forgot, I'd be fine with that.
I'd be totally fine with that. I'm not going to complain. I'll complain if they don't announce the reverse retro 2.0s because those I'm excited for. But if they forget about the ads and don't do anything, I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, don't poke the sleeping bear.
Right. Yeah, because those won't be exciting. But I think that's mostly all I have, Matt, unless there's anything else you wanted to talk about quickly before we start to wrap things up here.
Oh, holy no. I do want to ask you something.
Go for it.
Again, I started off the show saying I've been just incredibly bored. I've got, that itch for hockey. Is there anything you do to remedy that? Of course, you got the highlight packs or whatever, but I kind of went overboard this last week. I've been watching full games, every goal compilation, all of Victor Hedman's 20 goals, Stamkos's 38 goals, every goal compilation I could find from each individual player from this past season and even years prior. But I think the most overboard I went was watching Kuch's every point from his 2018-19 season, his MVP season, his 128-point season. That video was a solid 45 minutes long. It was every point. I counted too. It was 128. So, yeah. Again, I went a little overboard. I'm just curious if I'm odd, kind of one of the only ones that does it, or if you have to settle your vices in a similar way.
Quickly before I answer that, since it's on your mind, I want to ask you now, what was your favorite video you watched, or who are you most excited for now next season now that you watch their highlights?
It's hard to not say Kucherov just because, again, he's seldom been healthy in the regular season. So, I think if I made this prediction so long ago, but I said if Kuch plays 74 games or more this regular season, he's winning the Art Ross. He's gonna have the most points in the league. It's not. I'm calling it. I'm calling it right now.
It's not a crazy take.
It's not. He did it easily in 2018, 2019, and that was his last full season. So it's not too bold. And we've seen in the playoffs he can, in the disregarding this most past playoff run, but the 2 cup runs, he led the entire playoffs in points, and he was like second or third or maybe fourth this most past year. So
yeah, he obviously suffers from the unfortunate effect of the Lightning have so many talented players that they get overlooked on things all the time because it's the Lightning are so good, that's why they're good, and not look at this individual player's accomplishment. Like John Cooper, it happens to him all the time. But that's maybe that'll be next week's episode and talk about all the players that have gotten overlooked for for things. But to answer your question, sorry, I didn't forget. But to answer your question, absolutely, there's stuff you're not weird. I know my brother has been texting me a couple of times too that he's been watching nonstop highlight videos. I don't watch a ton of highlights. I was going through my text because I had to delete some because of my storage on my phone, and I found an old video that I had made that put a smile on my face. It was a video I made after the Lightning had beaten the Islanders in the postseason. If you guys remember, the Islanders, when they beat the Bruins, were chanting, "We want Tampa." Yeah, we're super into it. And I knew that just fueled everybody. So I had went and made like a little a montage of the fans chanting, and then just a montage of the Lightning demolishing the Islanders. And then at the very end, the caption was, "Well, you got him."
I remember it was game 2, I want to say, we beat the crap out of the Islanders.
It was like 7-0 or something like that.
I think it was 8-0. I'm
I
pretty
was
sure.
at that game. Yeah.
Were you? Oh,
Yes.
you lucky. Okay. Well, did you hear the "You got Tampa" chants?
Yes.
That was brilliant. I've got that video saved somewhere. "You got Tampa."
Fantastic. Yeah. So that video did bring a smile to my face, and I enjoyed watching that. But
Mhm.
obviously, I also go and listen to all of the RBLR content that's being put out every day. The fantastic stuff. No, this is not an ad. I know it may sound like it, but no, I do go back and try to listen to some of that. The Rays, obviously, in the middle of their season, Bucks getting ready. So definitely recommend to go and check out them. Be sure you follow at RBLR Sports on Twitter so you don't miss any of the podcasts that they put out. And then, of course, I'm biased with this too, but I go and check out everything else that's going around at the Bolt Report too, even though I write a lot of that stuff. But I like to go check it out too because it is fun content. And I do like to, we were talking about some of the hockey writer stuff in The Athletic. I try to go on there every once in a while if I see something interesting and read about that stuff. So I've been reading a lot about the upcoming season and just how what players we're going to be looking for, and how things are going to play out for the Lightning over the next couple of years, because have hit that spot. Like, they still have a couple years of their window open, but things can change very quickly when we start to have players retire or something like that. And we talked about a little bit of this as well as in our last episode as well, but so I've been interested in looking into that kind of stuff and just seeing where things might go for the Lightning the next couple of years. So that's what I've been doing. If I think that's all we got for today's episode. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening once again. Be sure to come back for next week as we get closer and closer to hockey season. We start talking about some of that really fun stuff and looking at who to look out for in training camp, what some of these players' roles might be here very soon. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at RBLR Sports. Wherever you're listening to as well, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're listening on YouTube, wherever it may be. It only takes a second. It's free. It really helps us out. We really appreciate it. And again, go check out all the other podcasts as well. They're putting out some amazing content, so don't forget to do that. Thank you guys for listening, though, and we will see you in the next one. Go Bolts.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.